Similar to Baki and Yujiro, Yujiro followed the footsteps of his father unintentionally while in the progression of power. Hey, what's up everybody? It's LeeLos, and today we're talking about why Yujiro versus Yuichiro is obvious. Stay steady in pursuit of your dreams and goals. You're born to win, you're made for greatness, and I definitely believe in you guys. Keep up the great work each and every day. Due to Yuichiro's ghost trash-talking Yujiro to his face, and Yuichiro having similar feats to Yujiro, such as them both being the only two characters in Baki to overpower the max military might of America, many fans assume Yuichiro was stronger than Yujiro. But today, we'll be analyzing the statements of the series to see if the manga says otherwise. Yujiro states that he and his father are complete opposites. Their outlook on life, their personalities, and their techniques are all completely different. Yujiro only speaks about his father during his father-son fight with Baki, so to get a better understanding of Yujiro's perspective on his father, it's best to analyze the words Yujiro does say, but also the words Yujiro does not say about Yuichiro. Yujiro never calls his father weak. Yujiro being a character that constantly roasts everyone around him, even Baki, for being weak, Yujiro never roasting his father says a lot. This implies that his father's power was greater than a lot of what Baki himself displayed throughout the entire series. Furthermore, Yuichiro defeats America before Yujiro did, and it's still something Baki himself has never done. Defeating America to this day is still one of Yujiro's greatest recorded accomplishments, meaning Yuichiro set a standard of power for Yujiro, even if Yujiro never wanted him to. This is a parallel between Yuichiro and Yujiro that mimics the parallel between Yujiro and Baki. Similar to Baki and Yujiro, Yujiro followed the footsteps of his father unintentionally while in the progression of power. And this might just be a theme that has been following the most powerful of the Hanma bloodline throughout history for generations. This is implied during the father-son fight, as Yujiro states that their battle is something bigger than just themselves, and during the same time, they randomly pan over to show a fossil of an ancient Hanma, basically implying that the Hanmas are almost a separate species and not even fully human. And this odd progression of powerful Hanmas surpassing and challenging each other has gone on since ancient times, for generations. So because they both reached a pinnacle of power no one else in history or sense has ever reached, and Yujiro has never once called his father weak despite having polar opposite viewpoints on life and polar opposite techniques, it's a safe narrative assumption to say that Yujiro recognized his father's strength at least a little bit. Yujiro actually goes on to say that dress was one technique from his dad that was truly powerful. This compliment from Yujiro goes beyond what Yujiro says about one of Baki's most powerful techniques, the cockroach tackle, something Baki didn't even develop until after fighting Pickle. So it starts to paint a picture of how Yuichiro stacks up against modern Baki combatants. Furthermore, Yujiro states never once in his entire life was Yujiro ever challenged by anyone. No one has ever been stronger than himself, and he's never lost a fight or even been pushed in a fight once in his entire life. We don't know exactly when or how Yuichiro died, but it's confirmed Yuichiro was alive while Yujiro was a baby, and possibly into Yujiro's childhood as well, because atomic bombs were invented in the Baki story when Yujiro was born as a way for the world to compete with baby Yujiro's power, and then atomic bombs were available to use on Yuichiro when he challenged America. Seeing how Yuichiro was alive during Yujiro's infancy and potentially even his childhood, and Yujiro never felt inferior to him in power, even as a literal baby, it means the following. Narratively, Yujiro was born a monster so powerful that he surpassed Yuichiro either the moment he was born or very early into his childhood. Yujiro was so strong that he very likely was already stronger than his father before he learned any martial arts. Just using pure physical power, he was already stronger than Yuichiro using martial arts and his demon back ability. Then, once Yujiro began learning martial arts, he proceeds to become exponentially more powerful. If you analyze this deeply, then this literally means that the moment Yujiro was born, he was already the strongest. There's a chapter dedicated to Yujiro's birth that states the moment Yujiro was born, everything else in the world went down one rank of power. Taken literally, that would include his father, Yuichiro. In early Baki, it states that Yujiro has mastered every martial art technique in existence, even ancient ones only passed down through royal families, meaning every technique Yuichiro had, Yujiro would also have. And seeing how Yujiro states that he and his father had completely opposite techniques, that would mean Yujiro has access to 100% of his father's techniques, and he has access to an entire opposite list of moves as well, which is further proven by Yujiro stating the only technique his father had that Yujiro verbally recognized as powerful was dress, which Yujiro then proceeds to perform perfectly. Yujiro likely did the technique better than Yuichiro ever dreamed possible, because Yujiro's martial arts are constantly evolving, and he's performing dressed on a post-pickle arc demon back Baki, a character far stronger than any of the military men Yuichiro was fighting when he challenged America. So if you analyze the statements of the manga linearly, you get a pretty definitive answer about who's stronger than who. The number one most impressive recorded physical feat that Yuichiro has, he achieved using his demon back and using his strongest martial art techniques while he was a full-grown man. While Yujiro, on the other hand, does this exact same feat by just existing as a literal newborn baby. Then we see in the Musashi arc, Yujiro is blatantly stated as a man being more powerful than atomic bombs, while Yuichiro was a man who was never confirmed to be stronger than atomic bombs. It was more left up to the reader's interpretation because he whooped America and they just never used the atomic bombs on him. They gave up before using them. The first time Yujiro ever had anything even close to a challenging fight was against Baki at the end of the last season in the anime, and he still one-shots Baki at the end of the fight without even going all out. Then during his fight with Baki, Yujiro teaches Baki ultimate impersonation by impersonating himself. Yujiro says, "This is the most powerful creature that's ever existed. I don't know a creature more powerful than this one." Then proceeds to imitate himself and start shooting visible energy waves from his hands that even normal civilians can see. Since Yujiro knew his father, and he knew his father so well that he was able to perfectly replicate his most impressive America-defeating technique and perform it on demon back Baki, it means this. By Yujiro's own words, Yujiro is stronger than Yuichiro, because he states that he's the strongest and he doesn't know anyone or any creature stronger than himself, and he knew Yuichiro, so by that logic it includes Yuichiro. And not only that, Yujiro can do Yuichiro's most impressive technique on an exponentially more powerful opponent than Yuichiro was ever stated to fight. Yujiro and Yuichiro both are the only Baki characters who defeated America without the atomic bomb. Yuichiro did this as a full-grown man using his strongest abilities, while Yujiro did this as a baby the moment he was born. As the series continues, Yujiro becomes more and more famous. Start of the series, it's mainly America that views him as another country's worth of power. By the later arcs of the series, however, the entire world fears and recognizes Yujiro, and numerous world leaders get together to discuss how to handle Baki and Yujiro's father-son brawl. And Yujiro is so confident in his power, he's willing to challenge all the nations at once by himself. So basically, Yuichiro is stated to be superior to just America, and it's debatable whether or not he surpassed an atomic bomb, while later series Yujiro was shown to be superior to the entire world, not just America, and was blatantly stated to be superior to the atomic bomb as well. So while his father Yuichiro was relative to one nation, Yujiro himself was stronger than all nations put together. This makes a lot of sense, especially if you study early Baki. It's shown that Yujiro is a genius without rival that's constantly getting stronger. Baki himself is not a genius actually in the world of Baki. He's just an extremely hard worker, gifted with the genes that can allow him to become the strongest. Because of Baki's Hanma genes and bloodline, he's able to push himself further, adapt faster, and recover faster than normal martial artists. He uses all of this to his advantage and trains many times harder than the other top tier fighters in Baki. This was shown very clearly in the Maximum Tournament arc, where the average world champion fought twice a year. Baki was fighting 12 times a year, and he was doing this as a child. So because Baki was working 6 times harder than his competition, he was improving exponentially faster than all of his competitors, and he kept pulling off a spree of impossible victories, and it was surprising everyone around him. During this time, however, Stridum shows up and states that compared to Yujiro, Baki's progress was pathetically slow, and he couldn't even compare to the rate at which Yujiro improves just by living his life. And in the same arc, Baki states Yujiro's unbelievably powerful without even using martial arts, and his martial arts are continuously improving on top of that. So in manga, in general, it's a common theme for the new generation to eventually surpass the old generation. You see this happening in Dragon Ball, Naruto, Bleach, and even arguably One Piece. One of the things that makes Yujiro an impressive character is that narratively and based off of feats and statements, Yujiro has surpassed his own father, thus fulfilling the same common manga theme. But his son Baki, despite working exponentially harder than Yujiro ever had to, still has not been able to surpass Yujiro. Yujiro is kind of getting the Beerus treatment, where regardless of how hard the protagonist trains, Yujiro is still stronger and still has another level to its power. Yujiro is the strongest and still getting stronger all the time. So the idea of Baki surpassing him still seems like somewhat of an unattainable dream, so much so that Yujiro is just happy for Baki being able to reach a level where he can challenge Yujiro at all, because even that seemed impossible for Yujiro's entire life. So long story short, narratively and based off of statements from the manga, Yuichiro is more of a rival to baby, newborn Yujiro, and adult Yujiro has surpassed Yuichiro entirely, especially when you consider that Yuichiro is stated to have used his demon back when he defeated America. So Yuichiro's best demon back amped feat, Yujiro did the same thing as a baby before he even unlocked Hanma demon transformations. Then you add to that the fact that Yujiro learned every technique Yuichiro knew, plus has had decades of fighting on top of that, and that Yujiro himself states that there's no one in history stronger than himself. It all adds up to Yujiro being stronger than Yuichiro, arguably by a considerable amount. Similar to how Gaia and Yujiro had similar feats in war, but when they fought each other in real life, Yujiro just low diff destroys him in base form without taking any damage. So in manga, the new gen surpasses the old. Unless you're Yujiro, then you just continually keep beating up the new generation until you're satisfied.